Marinaro, the Sick Podcast live from Cafe Milano's. As a matter of fact, I was live earlier this afternoon around 1:40 p.m. or so, but you're watching this right now at about 10 p.m., of course, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. But once again, in all transparency, it was done earlier in the day. So thank you very much for watching, and thank you in advance for all the engagement. Cafe Milano's, a staple in Montreal since 1971. I'm talking about their St. Leonard location, of course, on Jerry. That's where I am. And they opened up in 2019, another Cafe Milano in Laval. And in 2022, they opened one up in DDO. People love it so much. Backed by popular, they open up another one. And in 2026, you can expect Cafe Milano in Brossard. So on the South Shore as well. Pierre LeBrun and Craig Button, both of TSN, are going to join me over the next hour or so. We're going to talk Montreal Canadiens hockey, and we'll Pierre LeBrun find out about the trade market. What is that right now? Is it hot or is it cold? The Montreal Canadiens could definitely use help. The Canadiens who have lost 4 consecutive games and are well the services of Caden Gooley, Patrick Liney, Newhook, and Curdy Dock. As for Craig Button, we'll talk about Zachary Bolduc on the number 1 line, Juraj Slafkovsky on the second line, and the goalies who are just cold. Confidence lacking. The Canadians, what to do to get that confidence back up. We'll tackle it over the next couple of minutes. It's the Sick Podcast. We're talking Habs. I'm Marinaro.
It's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came in to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your number 1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came in to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came in to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens. Le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs!
And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, the podcast, once again live from Cafe Milano on Jerry Street in St. Leonard. Happy to be here. Look, we've all been there screaming at the TV like it's overtime in the playoffs, only to realize that you are hungry. And I repeat, hungry. After Cafe Milano, the Italian hero Quebec didn't know needed since 1971. Authentic Italian flavors that pack a punch. They're serving a banger sandwiches. My personal favorite being the sausage sandwich with spicy, marinated eggplants, or should I say marination eggplants, vibrant salad bursting with flavor, and lattes and espresso that keep the energy high through overtime. Throw in a goalie or two, and every bit is a highlight. Head to St. Leonard, Lasalle, Point Claire, and their upcoming Brossard location for eats that turn rivals into roommates. Cafe Milano, because winning tastes better. Speaking of which, you can tell we have a full house of sports fans here and fans of Cafe Milano. A round of applause for Marco, Rash, Vic, Tony, and all the owners here at Cafe Milano's, huh? A staple in the Montreal community. Once again, since 1971, and we are extremely happy to be associated with them and have them as our partner. Thanks so much, everyone. Without further ado, a regular collaborator on Wednesdays from TSN and The Athletic. And does some work here on the podcast, of course, once again on Wednesdays. Can we bring in Pierre LeBrun?
Pierre LeBrun, presented by Cafe Milano, because winning tastes better.
Pierre, how once again, you know how to get the Montrealers right? You just wear that expo cap, and everyone's pretty excited. But then again, let me see that top that you're wearing, Pierre. Let me see that top that you're wearing.
This is the golf course I'm a member at in Muskoka, Rocky Crest. Yeah.
I didn't read Rocky Crest for a while there. It looked like Toronto Maple Leafs colors, and I said, "What is he on right there?"
No. I don't wear any NHL team colors of teams that exist. So you might see me with the odd Hartford Whalers jacket or Quebec Nordique shirt, but I don't wear any current NHL team uniform stuff.
That's a smart move, Pierre. Look, there's so many things to be excited about in the National Hockey League, right? You and I, over the past couple of weeks, Team Canada is going to meet between December 6th and between December 9th. There's going to be some big decisions that are going to take play there in terms of course, the team that's going to represent Canada at the 2026 Winter Olympics. Pierre, last night, Macklin Celebrini and Connor Bedard once again put a show. Hat tricks for both. For Celebrini in pretty incredible fashion, considering that his team scored 3 and he scored all 3. Listen to this stat, and I know you're aware of it, but Macklin Celebrini becomes the 4th player under 20 years of age to pick up 30 points after 20 games. Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, Sid Crosby, and now Macklin Celebrini. Pierre LeBrun, that's pretty good company.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, and I mean, I've said this for a while now. I think Celebrini is on. I think he's done enough to convince Team Canada that he should be part of the Olympic roster. And I think his biggest asset, well, not only did they get to know him at the World Championships last spring, where he meshed in with Sidney Crosby and Nathan McKinnon like he'd played with them for years, but he there's just so much trust in his game over 200 feet. And, the big thing with Team Canada is that if you're not going to be in the top 6, where are you going to be, and do we trust you there? And I think they trust Celebrini, in my opinion. When they name the team on December 31st, he'll be on it because they trust him that he can slide up and down that lineup. Connor Bedard continues to make it hard, Tony, for Team Canada not to take him. I still think that where Team Canada struggles internally in their conversations, I think, is if he's not in their top 6, where does he fit? And where's the trust there in terms of the defensive side of the puck and all that? And I get that conversation. I just think that what Bedard is doing is so special right now too, that, it's going to be hard to leave him off, but we'll see. I mean, that's why people run Team Canada. That's why they're in charge. And that's why I just get to sit back here and look at it all.
You talked about the trust, and you're right. There's less trust in Connor Bedard's game than there is in Macklin Celebrini's game. Macklin Celebrini, everyone knows, is a 200-foot centerman, and he's being talked about as a guy who'll probably model Sidney Crosby's game the most after Crosby. Connor Bedard has less of that trust. Some view him as a center, some view him as a winger. But if we're going to talk offensively, in his last 10 games, 10 goals, 11 assists, 21 points, 2 hat tricks. If you're going to name, how do you name 6 Canadian players who can bring more offense to the table? All right, so there's Sidney Crosby, there's Macklin Celebrini, there's Connor McDavid, there's Nathan McKinnon. You'd be hard-pressed to find another one, or 2, ahead of Connor Bedard. So you're right. He's going to make the conversation really interesting, Pierre.
Mitch Marner, who obviously was at Four Nations. And listen, I mean, Braden Point's a guy that they loved as far as him being able to shift to the wing at Four Nations and how he played. I'm going to say this again, and again, this isn't my opinion. I'm relaying what I believe to be true as far as Team Canada's approach here. They're not starting with a blank slate. They're taking the Four Nations championship roster and saying, why are we taking any of these guys off and who replaces them? That's a different mindset philosophically than saying, let's just look at all the Canadian players right now in the NHL and put a team together. It's not the same thing. The guys that were Four Nations have a leg up. And so because of that, I suspect when the roster is announced that there'll people looking at a player or two saying, well, he's really not been that great this year. Well, that's because a lot of it will have been his performance at Four Nations, his performance in the Stanley Cup playoffs will have had an override on some of his struggles this year. I'm telling you, there's going to be a couple players like that.
You know who has been very good, but hasn't been very good in the last couple of weeks is Captain Nick Suzuki of the Montreal Canadiens. Now, he blocked a shot a couple of weeks ago by Travis Konechny with about 1 second left in overtime. Watching, he was laboring. He took part in the shootout after that, but then after that, he had some therapy days. He wasn't at practice. Now, he has been at practice over the last couple of days, but he's clearly limping. He's clearly hobbling. He's clearly struggling. But if his performances over the past couple of weeks have actually hurt his chances of making Team Canada, or if the powers that be, Doug Armstrong, Don Sweeney, Julie Brisebois, John Cooper, and company, if they look at that and they say, okay, here's a player who's hurting. He's not 100%. He's staying in the lineup to try and help his team. Let's not hold it against him.
Right. Yeah, I guess we'll find out. It's interesting. Julian Brisebois, you mentioned him, the GM of the Lightning, assistant GM for Team Canada. He was in Columbus Monday night watching the Habs Columbus game, and I suspect he was there to watch Suzuki again. Brisebois has been deployed by Team Canada to watch Suzuki a number of times this year. The management group sort of has their lists of players, and they all watch their guys live, and it looks like Suzuki is often under Brisebois' guys. So, and it wouldn't have been a great game from Suzuki to see Monday night in Columbus. Again, I agree with you. It looks like he's not 100%, and he's trying to gut through something, which shows you his leadership next to Suzuki. But I mean, listen, that's why, as I said on Insider Trading Tuesday, those 3 days of meetings, December 6th to 9th, are going to be gigantic, because they're going to want to come out of there with 70% of their roster decided, basically, and then you're just down to 6 or 7 decisions. So, the deadline is December 31st, but at those meetings, December 6th and 9th, the meat of the team is going to be decided. So it's coming up on us.
And you're right. It was a difficult game for Nick Suzuki last game in Columbus. If you take a look at hockey stat card, as a matter of fact, I think he was the second least effective Montreal Canadian in the game. Zachary Bolduc finished last in terms of some of the advanced stats. When we talk about some of those stats, we're talking about individual offense, in the team offense above average, individual defense, team defense above average. Very difficult game for Nick Suzuki. Okay, Pierre, before I get to the Montreal Canadiens injury situation and the trade market, Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, a leading asset-light 3PL that's driven to be different. From cross-border freight between Canada, USA, and Mexico to coast-to-coast shipping in both Canada and the United States, Energy moves it all, fast, reliable, powered by tech that delivers smarter logistics in your real partner in transportation. Contact the team at sick@shipenergy.com and see how Energy Transportation Group is changing the freight game. All right, okay. As if watching hockey wasn't thrilling enough, now every goal means more action on the felt. Before the puck drops, every poker table is randomly assigned a player from Montreal, and when your player scores, boom, Playground splashes the next spot with up to $200 in chips. Catch every game on Playground's big screens all around the room, so you never miss a goal, a play, a splash pot. So get your game face on and head to Playground for hockey nights, where the goals, the games, and the action all come together. Also brought to you part by Bittt. The Tibi launched their new Ultra Lager, refreshing thirst-quenching beer, perfect for those cool fall and even winter days. Only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. It's ultra light, ultra refreshing. Pierre, the Canadiens' injury situation. They were already without Patrick Laine and Caden Gooley. On Friday, we found out Alex Newhook had surgery to his ankle, out 4 months. Caden Gooley, surgery to a partial tear of his adductor muscle, out at least 2 months. On Sunday, we found out Kirby Doc, fractured foot, out about a month. Canadiens have lost 4 games in a row. There's no doubt they're working the phones, Pierre, but how difficult is it to make a trade right now? I think of the Tampa Bay Lightning that had a ton of injuries. They didn't make a move. Does that mean that they had confidence in their group, or does that mean that there's no trades to be had right now, Pierre?
Well, it is hard to make trades. I mean, listen, there's absolutely no question that, you know, the Habs are making calls and are checking to see on the market what exactly is available this early in the season. You know, one of the problems that the Canadiens and other teams are facing too when they're making those calls is just how jammed the standings are, how close everything is. And the reality is that outside of Calgary and to some degree St. Louis, there aren't that many teams that are incentivized to do something right now. So it's a difficult market, to be sure. You know, my sense, you know, about Montreal is that sort of a dual track approach, Tony. Like on the one hand, there's the bigger trade where if they can boost their forward group, that's a deal that doesn't just get them out of the jam they're in now with the injuries, but it's more about something they would have done before the injuries too, right? Mm-hmm. So a type of trade that helps the team, you know, not just this year, but beyond this year, the type of moves that Ken Hughes and Jeff Gordon have done over the last number of years, that is still priority number one. But there is a second type of deal, a softer deal, let's call it, if they can help their team with the injuries and not pay a high cost on assets. That's something they're exploring as well. And you know, everyone knows this, but they tried on David Camp, for example, who's a free agent, and he chose to sign with Vancouver instead. But that's something the Canadiens inquired into. So there could be a softer deal as well. You know, as we tape this, I don't sense anything is imminent, but those things can change quickly. But I think in general, to answer your question, it is still tough because so many teams are in it and not really willing to give up the kind of piece that the Canadiens are looking for. So, you know, we'll see where it goes from there.
So, Pierre, you're right. There's never been this much parity in the National Hockey League, but I think we could say, and look, unless a miracle happens, that if we take a look at the standings, there are 2 teams that are clearly hurting more than the rest right now. The Calgary Flames being the one that's hurting the most, and the Nashville Predators with a win percentage of .400, Calgary .310. And some names come up often, so I want to ask you about them. Jeff Marek said, watch out for the Canadiens and Steven Stamkos. Do you think there could be anything there, Pierre?
I don't see it. I know Jeff said that, and I have a lot of respect for Jeff, and I get why he's saying it. I will just say that I don't think that would be top of mind right now for Montreal. I mean, I think that, the 2 years at $8 million left for Stamkos after this year, I think probably is an issue for the Habs and so on. I mean, if you were going to look at a guy on Nashville, Jonathan Marchessault probably would make more sense, I think, because of the lower cap hit. But again, there's 3.5 years left on his deal, which unless Nashville was willing to retain, and I don't think the Predators right now would be willing to retain on either one of those players, then I don't know that the Habs would be that incentivized to go down that path. And by the way, I don't even think, as far as I can tell, I don't even think the Canadians have talked to Nashville. And again, I think when it comes to Stamkos and Marchessault, I wrote about them last weekend in my rumblings in The Athletic. We're all getting a little ahead of ourselves, I think. I mean, these are really discussions, I think, that make more sense later in the season for Nashville.
Yeah.
But keep in mind one thing. Both Stamkos and Marchessault have 100% ironclad no trade clauses. They decide their fate, not the Nashville Predators. So that's something to keep in mind as well. You mentioned Calgary. I mean, we've talked about Nazem Kadri. I think he would be of interest to the Canadians. I believe that the Canadians and the Flames have checked in with each other a few times this year. But I don't know if we mentioned this last week, but it was Darren Dreger who broke this. But, Flames ownership don't want Nazem Kadri traded. So this goes to a whole other conversation that the Flames, despite where they are in the standings, I don't think Murray Edwards, the owner, is that interested in a full rebuild. So I guess on Kadri, I would say, Tony, let's wait later in the year to see if the player himself, through his agent, Darren Ferris, goes to the Flames and says, you know what, maybe for everyone involved, I should probably move on. Then maybe that changes things. But I think it's noteworthy when that the Flames owner feels that way. So, another player that I wrote about last weekend on my rumblings was Blake Coleman. For all the talk about Rasmus Anderson and Nazem Kadri, I will tell you that from talking to sources around the league, Blake Coleman's actually the player that people have called on the most.
Really?
Yeah. He's got this year and next left at $4.9 million on his deal. He's a 2-time Stanley Cup champion with Tampa. He's a guy who oozes leadership, still a good player. So he's really probably the name to watch in terms of playoff contenders.
We brought up Marchessault before. It should be noted as well that the Canadians talked to Marchessault when he was an unrestricted free agent, and they didn't get along. They didn't agree on the term, right? He wanted a longer-term deal. The Canadians offered a shorter-term deal. So I don't know if, a couple of years later, they would change their mind and say, okay, let's take him with the contract that is. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, good point by you. I mean, that was I had the same understanding at the time that, they had interest in him, but not at that contract. So, yeah. But
one name that we didn't bring up with Nashville, though, is Ryan O'Reilly. So, you talked about Steven Stamkos' big cap hit for the next 2.5 years. We talked about Marchessault's longer contract, but Ryan O'Reilly's contract's up in 1.5 years.
Yeah.
And he makes less than $5 million a year. That's a lot more digestible. And clearly the Canadians have a need for a 200-foot centerman. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so he's not a name that's been out there. I think, and that's not to say that won't change. I think the reason for that is that I think that the Predators view him still in whatever as they continue to get younger, that he's part of the guy that they want around their kids. So I don't think the Predators view Ryan O'Reilly presently as a trade chip, Tony, but we're in November, buddy. We're not in February, so lots of time to play out. We'll see.
Fantastic stuff. Okay, just a couple of notes around the National Hockey League. Brad Treliving takes full responsibility in Toronto. They won last night. By the way, that's probably one of the nicest goals that I've seen this season from John Tavares with a back skate pass the way he did. The pass from Morgan Riley to William Nylander coming off the bench. The backhand toe drag and then the move in close by William Nylander. That was insane. How about the pressure in Toronto to make something happen? What are you hearing as far as the Leafs are concerned?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Brad Treliving spoke to the media, quarter into the season. I was always planned that he was going to talk to the media, but, you could see the stress on him as he spoke to the media on Tuesday. as he said, of course he'd like to help his team with a trade, but where is that trade? And, one of the hard things for Toronto, and they're trying, there's no question they are trying, but one of the tough, I think deep down Brad Treliving knows he can't trade his way out of this right now. That so much of what has to happen for the Leafs has to come from within. Hey, they got to get healthier. I mean, massive key injuries right now, like a lot of teams. But even before the injuries hit, Tony, this is a team that to me has lacked an identity all year, and Treliving himself touched on that, which is a bit surprising for a team that's been in the playoffs every year forever, that they look this just disjointed. I mean, the real stinging comment from Treliving about his team was that they look vanilla to him most nights. Yeah. You never want to hear a GM say that about a team that's a contender. So that's troubling. And so, he's going to try to make a move, but that's not, this is all from within. I think Craig Berube, head coach, is probably realizing now in year 2 behind the Leafs bench that his intentions of changing the DNA of this team in terms of how they play on both sides of the puck and how they become a harder team on pucks. I think he was realizing that transformation is a lot harder than he thought it was going to be. That's just my opinion. Oops. And that the Leafs have played a certain way for so long that some of those long-standing core guys, I think, are struggling to play the way he wants them to play, which, by the way he wants them to play is what wins you playoff games. And
Barry Trotz was able to change it in Vancouver.
Or in Washington, you mean? Yeah.
Washington, yes.
Yes. Oh, that's right. And so what Barry Trotz did in Washington is essentially what Craig Berube is trying to do in Toronto. No question about it. Now, let's just point out the elephant in the room. I mean, the loss of Mitch Marner is magnified now, except that the Leafs have actually scored goals. Their biggest problem is how loose defensively they've been. They've been brutal defensively. So, I mean, the Leafs are an absolutely fascinating story right now. And I'll just say this, that if they can't get their season on track, and I actually think they will get their season on track, but if they cannot, Tony, the Boston Bruins hold their first-round pick in the Brandon Carlo deal, where they also got Fraser Minton.
Yes.
And that first-round pick is only top 5 protected. So there's a world in which the Bruins can pick anywhere from 6 to 10th if the Leafs remain where they are now, depending on the lottery. So there's a lot riding on the Leafs getting things going, but I think they will.
Pierre, I won't keep you much longer. Pierre LeBrun is brought to you on Wednesdays by Cafe Milano, and I'm here on Jarry Street in St. Leonard. Pierre, I don't know if you've ever had a chance to visit Cafe Milano when you've been in Montreal, but it's a staple. It's been here since 1971. They opened up a second location in Laval in 2019. They opened up a third location in Didio in 2022, and they got a fourth location opening up in Brossard, not too far from the Montreal Canadiens practice facility, as a matter of fact, in 2026. But just a couple more before we let you go. I'd love to have your opinion on Patrick Waugh telling Mikko Rantanen yesterday, who went into Romanov. It was boarding. He was tossed out of the game. No supplemental discipline because they say that he may have got tied up with Mayfield, may have lost his balance there. But your thoughts on Patrick Waugh telling Mikko Rantanen, wait till you come to New York. You're not going to finish the game. It's a league of trash talk. We know it. But your personal opinion when coaches do it.
Yeah, I think Patrick went too far there. I mean, listen, once in a while, the old Patrick resurfaces with his emotion and his passion. We've seen a lot less of it since he's come back to coaching the NHL a second time, by the way. We've got to give him credit for that. He's been, by and large, under control, but that's just a loss of emotion. I think, if you would have time to watch it now, the day after, he would realize that I think there was a loss of balance there for Rantanen. Looked worse than really what I think it ended up being, and obviously the NHL agrees. But you obviously never want to hear a coach say that. And I think, the next time they play, I think you'll hear a way more diplomatic Patrick Waugh ahead of that game.
Fantastic stuff. What's going on in the National Hockey League? Luosterainen out because of a barbecue accident. Jack Hughes out because of an accident at a team supper.
Don't go to dinner.
Don't go to dinner, I guess, eh?
Jeez.
Will Jack Hughes be back for the Olympics?
Yeah, all the indications are he will. But it is nuts, those two injuries. I don't want to make light of them. They're both injuries, but it's crazy that teams were already bracing Tony for an Olympic affected year in which the schedule is majorly condensed and there's almost no practice time and a lot of games and everyone holding their breath in terms of injuries and wear and tear. And then these two very important players, obviously Jack Hughes is a superstar, but Listerinen, he was part of that third line that wins Florida the Cup, point blank, last spring. You don't expect those types of injuries. I mean, it's bad enough that that the schedule itself is threatening all the players, but those two freaky incidents, man, that's just yeah.
Last one before we get to Craig Button. The Canadiens goalies are struggling with confidence in their last 4 or 5 starts. Their save percentage numbers are way down. Your thoughts on the goalie situation in Montreal?
Well, it's just not nearly been good enough. I mean, it's interesting because we can talk about the injuries with the Habs and we can talk about, their lack of consistency of late and all these other things. I mean, by far the most important factor in Montreal tailing off a bit after their amazing start is they're not getting enough saves. Not nearly good enough from Samuel Montembeault. I'm going to give Dobis a break because he's the number 2, but Samuel Montembeault has dropped the ball here so far this season. To me, he's been the biggest disappointment on the Montreal Canadiens. And, we've seen enough in his body of work to know that he'll find his game, but he's cost him points. And you can go out and try to make every trade you want, and the Habs are working the phones, but you got to get saves, man. It's actually remarkable what Montreal's record is this year, despite that, to be quite honest. So, yeah, they need better goaltending. That's the real headline for me in terms of, why has Montreal come down to earth?
Pierre LeBrun, thank you very much. We look forward to talking to you in the very near future. Again, a regular collaborator on the Sick Podcast. Thank you, Pierre. Much appreciated. There you have it, Pierre LeBrun. It's now time for Craig Button.
Craig Button, presented by Souvlaki Authentique. Bring the taste of Greece home.
And yes, Craig Button, Montreal knows good food. Nothing hits like Souvlaki Authentique. Every stick of Souvlaki is marinated fresh. Every pita packed with flavor in the potatoes, twice fried and finished with that signature lemon sauce. Comfort food, Greek style, family run, flavor packed, proud to serve Montreal. SouvlakiAuthentique.com is their website to find your nearest location and bring the taste of Greece home. Craig Button, regular collaborator every Wednesdays, along with Pierre LeBrun. How are you?
I am great. How are you, Tony?
Extremely well. And guess what? We finished off with Pierre LeBrun, where what you and I touched on last week. It's the Canadiens' goaltending situation, Craig, and it's been rather shaky. As a matter of fact, Shane Gaumont and Master Control, if you can bring up a chart of their save percentage in their last 5 starts that I sent you last night. Let's see if we have that. We should get it any second here. Last 5 starts for Jakub Dobes and for Samuel Montembeault. Well, if we don't have it, I'll just say it. Dobes, 870 save percentage in Columbus, 615 versus Dallas, 857 at Jersey, 857 at Seattle, 903 at Vancouver. Montembeault, 870 versus Boston. When he came in the Dallas game, 667. 926 versus Utah was good. 905 versus Philly. 824 versus Ottawa. 793 versus Edmonton. There you have it. You need better numbers than that, Craig Button.
Well, not just better numbers, a lot better numbers. I mean, those are numbers that don't get you success at the American Hockey League level, let alone the National Hockey League level. So when you start to consider the goaltending, and I heard what Pierre had to say, he's exactly right. And we've talked, Tony, you and me, and I know you've talked to Pierre about this, the way Marty St. Louis, is trying to convey confidence. He's not trying to be overly critical publicly of his goaltending. But Marty St. Louis knows that Sam Montembeault is more than capable of being a lot better than he has been. And to Pierre, it's not good enough. And Jakub Dobes, who's really still a rookie in his rookie year, trying to build on it. We've seen the real good. This is what happens with rookie goaltenders. You get the ups that are really significant and the promise, which he definitely has. And then you get some of those downs and, trying to work on your game. But the extension of that is the Montreal Canadiens are paying a big price right now for is really poor goaltending.
We'll touch on the goaltending maybe a little bit later, but Zachary Bolduc's on the number one line right now with Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield. He started the last game on that number one line, didn't finish it, found himself on the bench to end the game with Joshua Roy and Jared Davidson. You take a look at the hockey stat card, Bolduc was the least effective Montreal Canadian last game. Nevertheless, he's back at practice with them today. He had a long chat with Marty before the practice. Your thoughts on Bolduc being promoted to the first line, and I don't know if I'll call it a demotion, but Slafkovsky now on the second line.
Yeah, I think when things aren't going well, coaches try to configure their lines in ways that can, bolster one area of an individual's game, add a little bit something to another line's game, and I think that's all Marty's trying to do. We know what Juraj Slafkovsky is capable of doing right now. With Alex Newhook being out long-term, the injury to Kirby Dach, I believe that Zachary Bolduc has an unbelievable chance and opportunity here. So as a coach, you're saying, okay, we don't have Newhook. So what can I do with two rookies in Kapanen and Demidov? Then, I have Bolduc. What can I do to try to get his confidence up? So put him with your two best offensive players in Suzuki and Caulfield. I like it. And now it's up to Zach Bolduc to take advantage of this opportunity, playing with two superb players. And I think that's what Marty's trying to remind him of. Hey, you're a good player. You have capability. Now you got to go out and do it. Like, what more can Marty St. Louis do than put Zachary Bolduc with the two best offensive players in Montreal and allow him to try to grow? If Zachary Bolduc can't do that, then there's going to be some bigger decisions to be made, i.e. going down to Laval and playing in the minors.
Oh, so let's hear from Bolduc on what he can bring to that number one line.
C'est sûr que ça peut être tentant là, de vouloir jouer à sa finesse puis chercher les jeux parfaits, mais je veux apporter ma vitesse, je veux apporter mon intensité, mon énergie, je suis un gars qui peut créer des jeux, je suis un gars qui a un bon lancer, donc ça va être, pour moi c'est d'apporter ma game, mais je veux aussi un peu m'adapter à eux. Je veux pas, la façon de jouer n'est pas la même quand tu joues avec des gars comme Nick et Cole, donc je suis super excité puis j'ai bien hâte à demain.
Bolduc saying all the right things. I can bring my pace. I can bring my speed. I can bring my shot. I can also, I can create plays as well. I'm playing with two really good players, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Well, you should be excited about it. How many opportunities does a young player get like this? I mean, it's unbelievable that Marty St. Louis says, hey, we're going to put you right up on the left wing to get there. When you play with outstanding players that certainly Nick and Cole are, you better be able to think along those lines, which is high pace thinking. You better skate at a high pace. You better make plays at a high pace, because these opportunities don't just get handed to you. The opportunity arises for different reasons. And so for Zach Bolduc, what I've noticed with Zach Bolduc, and I've watched him for a long time. I've watched this guy since he was 15 years old playing midget trois in Quebec. And the one thing I've noticed about him right now, playing with the Montreal Canadiens, he doesn't look decisive. He doesn't look direct. He looks uncertain of himself. Like, Zach, play the game that you know very well. Play the game where you scored 19 goals last year in St. Louis. Get back to that game and get showing that you're more than capable. Get to the net. Be hard. Make those plays. Follow your shot. Don't be thinking about, what can I do now? Like, he looks like a player that goes into a restaurant and he's looking at the menu. Well, should I have this? Should I have this? Should I have that? Should I have this? Maybe I'll start with dessert. Be decisive, Zach. You know how to be a good player. You have been a good player. This opportunity is, you talk about laying it on a silver platter. It's like saying, hey, we're going to put lobster and steak and filet mignon on your plate. and you're going to, well, maybe I'll go vegetarian. No, you're not. You find a way to eat the filet and enjoy the lobster, because that's what Nick and Cole are.
I hear you. Look, I understand that Marty St. Louis has to try and find solutions here, right? He had to try and find them after 3 consecutive losses, hence the line changes. And now it's 4 consecutive losses, and he's going to stick with the same lines that he had last game because he probably loved what he saw in period number 3 and in overtime. Mind you, Bolduc wasn't on that line for the latter part of period number 3. But anyway, don't you think, though, that Slafkovsky is the perfect complement to Suzuki and Caulfield? Clearly, they felt that over the last 3 years. What I'm asking you is, even if this line has a little bit of success, long-term, don't you think Slafkovsky is going to be that guy that's going to be the third guy on that line with Suzuki and Caulfield?
Yeah, I do. I think Juraj moving. I think there's 2 parts to Juraj moving over with Kapanen and Demidov. I just mentioned they're both rookies, trying to give them a boost, trying to bolster them. This is no longer about trying to boost Juraj Slafkovsky. This is about Juraj Slafkovsky's game elevating to a point now where, in the absence of Alex Newhook, who has been really good, and that's a significant absence, trying to go to a line and bolster that line. So that speaks volumes about Juraj Slafkovsky's development, progression in his game, that Marty says, hey, you can go and do this for our team by going there. At the same time, to answer your question, I think that he's absolutely the best option for the Montreal Canadiens to play with Nick and Cole. No question in my mind, but circumstances right now dictate that Marty's got to look at things a little bit differently. And the positive thing is that Juraj's at a place where he can go and do exactly what Marty needs right now to try to get some balance in his lineup and support different players.
Bolduc didn't only get promoted to the first line, he also got promoted to the first wave of the power play. Let's hear from Marty St. Louis on his impressions of Bolduc, on having Bolduc back on power play number 1.
It doesn't change the collective scheme, you need that presence, so, I think Boldy is good at that, but, Slav was there before too, and he scored some goals from there. I don't think you need that presence, but to me it's the scheme around that presence that opens things up. So it's not because we put Boldy there that now that our power play is going to be better. No, it's how we all play together, knowing we have a guy there, and that's going to be Boldy on the first unit, Cappy on the second one. So, sometimes it's not necessarily personnel. It does help, but not without, a collective scheme.
So he's talking about players in the bumper position, Bolduc in the bumper on the first wave of the power play, Kapanen on the bumper in the second wave. And of course, Bolduc going to the first wave of the power play means that Ivan Demidov now finds himself on the second wave of the power play. Craig, it's a power play that has had a lot of success for a couple of weeks. They were at a rate of 54%, but they're 0 for their last 17. A power play that doesn't shoot enough, hence one of the decisions to put Demidov on PP2 and Bolduc on PP1. Your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are, and I, when Demidov went up to the first power play unit, Marty thought that he had earned it. It was Nick Suzuki's comments, and this is the first comment he made that have really struck me and as we go through this path. Number one, when Ivan went to the first power play unit, Nick said, it opens things up. It gives us different options. I might not handle the puck as much, but we're going to get puck touches in other places, and we're going to open up the ice. Marty just talked about the scheme and how you work collectively to open up opportunities. So what ends up happening there is you have some success. Well, now what ends up happening? Teams adjust. Your power play isn't running at the same efficiency. Now, the second comment Nick made was the other day, and I think that this has a big part of it. He goes, I need to have the puck more. I want to have more puck touches. So how do you have more puck touches? You make sure that the puck can run through his hands more often. You change the scheme. When you're 0 for 17, 0 for your last 17, it necessitates change. So I think that there's two things. That you have this brilliant player, Nick Suzuki, who understands so much. So when Demidov went up there, it's like, okay, here's how we're going to work it. Well, now it's not working, and Nick Suzuki understands, okay, we got to do some different things. And that is a luxury that Marty St. Louis has with Nick Suzuki, not only as the brilliant player, but as the brilliant mind. He's got that brilliant mind. How many times, Tony, do we talk about players like that are leaders, captains, to be like the extension of the coach? Well, I think Nick is the extension of Marty St. Louis, not just in terms of the skill, but also in the thinking. And that's why you have a change here. The results dictated a change. But Nick's comments when it first went to Demidov and now going away from Demidov are really, really instructive for how you're going to try to move forward with your power play and try to get some success. And Nick, as you well know, is not afraid to take the responsibility and say, okay, on my shoulders, I need to have the puck more. I'm going to make it work.
It's the Sick Podcast, and the Canadians and the Washington Capitals go tomorrow night at the Bell Center. Get in on the action. Go all the way with Betway. Get a deposit matchup bonus up to $300 on your first deposit. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account. Redeem your welcome offer. Offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offers not available in Ontario. Must be 18 years of age and older. And please play responsibly. Still haven't bought your winter tires? I want to give a shout out to Point S, and that is point-s.ca. Time's running out, folks. If you're in Quebec, you have until December 1st to get your tires installed. The good news is that you can pick up GT radial tires at Point S starting at only $89 per tire. Visit point-s.ca to shop for GT radial tires or to find your nearest Point S location. Juraj Slafkovsky on the coaches and management's expectations of him. Let's hear from Big Juraj.
I feel like at the beginning I was just shy, a little guy that tried to be a skill guy that didn't really use his body, and then I feel like now everyone expects for me to bring a physicality and play hard and obviously make plays and score goals.
All right, there you have it. The little guy just showed up and shy, but now everyone's expecting me to play physical. But you know what I didn't hear in that, though, Craig? And I'm interested. I don't know if I'm reading too much. He didn't say that he expects himself to play physical. Everyone expects me to play physical. He can play physical, but I have some people come out to me every now and then and say, Tony, Slafkovsky, and I say modern-day power forward. And they look at me and they say, okay, but is it in him? Because if it's in him, he can be a very good, consistent, modern-day power forward. But if it's not in him, and he has to kind of force it or he has to play it because that's what they expect of him, he'll never do it as good as he can, and he'll never do it with the same consistency. Your thoughts? Is it in him?
I think you have to define, physicality. I think that's the first thing you have to do. I thought Juraj made a very good comment, learning how to use his size. I don't know what we expect from Juraj Slafkovsky. He's never going to be Tom Wilson, who happens to be the next opponent that the Canadians will face. He's not Tom Wilson. So if your expectation of Juraj Slafkovsky is to go out and play like Tom Wilson, you're always going to be disappointed, and that's not in him. That is not in him. What is in him is the understanding of how to use his size more forcefully, how to impose himself. I'm going to use an example here, okay? And Juraj is not in the skill department of Leon Draisaitl. Leon Draisaitl is a bear to play against. He doesn't run you over, but try playing against him. He bumps up against you, he leans on you, he imposes himself on you. He makes life very difficult and try to handle him one-on-one. That's power. That's physicality in today's game. And to me, that's what Juraj is learning. I've seen real significant steps in that regard. I don't think he's ever going to be a point-a-game player. I think that 60 points is what he is. He can contribute to so many other things in the game. Board battles, net battles, imposing himself. He's got enough skill to be a 25-goal scorer. Maybe can hit the 30-goal mark now and again. But to me, it's about imposing yourself. It's about when you're skating with the puck, you're not trying to dangle. You're saying, listen, I'm going to make you handle me physically. So I'm not going to make it easy on an opponent. And I think that's where Uri has come to. I think that's what the expectation should be for Uri. If you want him to go out and bang and crash, it's not in him. It's not who he is. And I think if you're asking somebody to be something they're not, you're always going to be in a state of flux with respect to I got to do what the coach asked me to do, so Uri's not feeling good about it. Then if it's not natural and he's not doing it as much as you'd like to see him, then the coaches are disappointed. And that creates that friction that is not healthy. Know what a player is, know what he has, and then say, here's how we're going to judge you.
Yeah. Craig, tomorrow night, the Canadians will play against a team that's heavier than them. That in the playoffs we saw was bigger than them, was nastier than them, and had more experience than them. The Canadians thus far this year have struggled mightily against heavy teams. I'd like to bring up a chart. Heaviest team in the National Hockey League, Boston, loss. Toronto, second, loss. LA, third, loss. Dallas, fourth, loss. Rangers, fifth, loss. If you take a look at the 15 heaviest teams in the National Hockey League, the Canadians have played versus 11 of them thus far. They have 3 wins and 8 losses. Coincidence or not?
They beat the Boston Bruins in one game. Toronto Maple Leafs on opening night, they were better. They deserved a better outcome. The game against Los Angeles, I thought they had a lot of good things. They clearly outplayed Edmonton. So I don't buy into this, Tony. I'll be very straightforward. I'm not going to talk around it. I don't buy into it. Either you're competitive or you're hard. Do I think that the Montreal Canadiens can use a little bit more weight and deeper in their lineup and their forward group? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think that when you start looking at playoff hockey and what it takes to be in the grind, yeah, I think you can benefit from that. And I don't think there's any question that Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes are looking how to supplant that and supplement that and try to make sure that you build your team with that type of player. But the next time I see Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, Ivan Demidov, Oliver Kapanen, Alex Newhook get pushed out of a game, they don't get pushed out of games. And good hard players, good competitive players don't get pushed out of games. What you want to try to do is have a lineup that's deeper that can make life uncomfortable and push opponents out of games. And I think that that's the goal for the Montreal Canadiens management. But I'm not worried about where this is all part of development. How do you get experience? I tell you how you get experience. There's not one player that's ever played in the NHL that didn't start with 0 games in the NHL. There's not one player that played 100 games in the NHL that hadn't played 99. And I can go on from there. You gain experience by going through the different trials, tribulations, disappointments, challenges. And that goes for management, coaches, and players. The Montreal Canadiens are really well positioned. They're well positioned now. We know that they can play better. They run into a little bump in the road. That's part of the inexperience, part of their immaturity. And I use immaturity not in a negative, just as a reality check. And now management has shown that keep pushing ahead. Well, is there any better example last year than when they got to the trade deadline and Jeff and Ken said, we're not trading anybody. Because you're right about that. Even though they're playing free agent. And now that's where they're at. They'll explore opportunities. But some of those games that they lost, they were the better team. We started this off with goaltending. So, maybe with better goaltending, you got a lot more check marks beside there, and we're not having this discussion. But straightforward, Tony, I know what you're trying to build to optimally. I don't see it as a problem for the Montreal Canadiens.
We're actually going to end it with goaltending. I'll get to it in a second, but just before I do, introducing, here we go, the Slushbuster, okay? Not a slush puppy, but the Slushbuster, all right? Okay, so we'll give them a shout out. The new innovative snow brush designed to tackle winter's mess with ease. From heavy slush to stubborn ice, the Slushbuster clears it all quickly, keeping your car clean, your hands dry, smarter, stronger, and built for Canadian winters. Visit slushbuster.ca. People wanted to see it, so we're showing it to them. This is the Slushbuster, and I don't know, like this big golf club or whatever it is, this will break all the ice off of your car. and you'll be able to get all the slush off of your cars. So people wanted to see it. We showed it to them. Our job is done. It's the snow brush that everyone's talking about right now. It is the snow brush for our winters. Okay. I'm going to ask you one last question. We talked about the Canadiens' goaltending problems. If you had to choose one on the Canadiens' goalies, on their defense, on their team's defensive play, who do the shortcomings fall on? On the goalies, the defense, or the team's overall defensive play?
I think it falls on the goaltenders. I think that Jakub Dobeš had a great start. He struggled here over the last few weeks. Sam Montembeault has not found his game at all this season. And Pierre LeBrun talked about it earlier. You need saves. You need to find a way to get your game to a higher level. And you put up the save percentage numbers. Those are unacceptable numbers at the NHL level. So, is it all on the goaltenders? No, but it's heavily weighted to the goaltenders. And you know what they need? They need the Slushbuster to get the ice out of their game and to get back to smooth ice and being able to see clearly. Because right now, they're not doing it. And they need to find a way to get better. And I think that if they can get that area of their game improved, you'll see more wins come along the way, and they'll get back to being able to be that team that can dictate play in a lot of different ways. But the goaltending, if you ask me to put, I think 70% of it is on the goaltending, Tony.
Craig Button, I'm going to bring up 3 charts very quickly, and these charts would indicate that you're right. These charts would indicate that you're right. Low danger shots against. The Canadiens, 8th lowest in the National Hockey League. They allow the 8th lowest low danger shots against. Next chart. Medium danger shots against. The Canadiens are 11th lowest in the National Hockey League. Next chart. High danger shots against. The Canadiens are 8th lowest in the National Hockey League. So there you have it. A team that averages in terms of low danger shots against, medium danger shots against, and high danger shots against. They're in the 10th lowest in the National Hockey League on average. If you had to choose one, I think you had the right answer, Craig, that it's on the goalies more than anyone else right now.
I can never, ever, at the end of this great podcast with you and the great time I always have with you, ever feel better about leaving than when you say you're right.
You're right, Craig. And on that note, we should get out right away. Pierre, Craig Button, thank you very much.
Thanks.
There you have it. I don't know if I called him Pierre. It's definitely Craig Button. Been a long day, but want to thank Pierre LeBrun for joining us as he usually does on Wednesdays. I want to thank Craig Button once again. Craig Button brought to you by Souvlaki Authentique. I want to thank all of our sponsors and, of course, Cafe Milano's, who brings you Pierre LeBrun, and Cafe Milano's for the tremendous hospitality we had here. Once again, you're watching this right now. It's probably give or take at around 11 p.m. Eastern time as you're watching it. But I want to let you know that this was recorded earlier in the day at around 1:45 in the afternoon. We had a jammed house here at Cafe Milano's on Jarry Street in St. Leonard. They are a staple in the Montreal community since 1971. Out of all the establishments in the city of Montreal, and probably even in the province of Quebec, that people just love to go to for a coffee, Cafe Milano's is at the very, very top of that list. Where people want to go to for a sandwich, Cafe Milano's is at the very top of that list. And what I love is not only their coffees and not only their sandwiches. I had a steak salad when I came here, and they have chicken salads, and they have amazing desserts as well. What I love is, if you haven't seen somebody in a while, chances are, if you walk into Cafe Milano's on Jarry and St. Leonard, or you walk into Cafe Milano's in DDO off of Brunswick, or you walk into Cafe Milano's on Saint Martin in Laval, that person that you haven't seen in a while, chances are you're going to bump into them there. And they're going to be having that same coffee, that same dessert, that same sandwich, that same salad that you and your friends are having as well. In terms of social life, you say social life, you say Cafe Milano's, and hopefully this 4-minute endorsement has got me at least 1% ownership of Cafe Milano's. If not, I got to find a different approach. I want to thank Arash. I want to thank Vic. I want to thank Tony. I want to thank Marco. And I want to thank everyone else who's an owner, except for me. Not yet. Hopefully soon. Special thanks to Liam and for the technical support. Fantastic stuff. Thank you very much. Special thanks to everyone coming out to Cafe Milano's, not only today, but every day. Thanks for watching the Sick Podcast. I'll be back tomorrow night, right after the Montreal Canadiens and the Washington Capitals. Joining me will be Pierre Maguire and Brian Wild. And you can catch me aussi en français du lundi au vendredi parce que Agnello me paye pas assez, donc j'ai besoin d'avoir 18 emplois pour payer l'hypothèque. Du lundi au vendredi à 10 h le matin sur la même chaîne YouTube, on the same YouTube channel, Monday to Friday at 10 a.m. in French, Monday to Friday at 10 p.m. in English. It's the Sick Podcast. I'm Marinaro. Ciao for now.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. Bittt, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.